Hello and welcome to NDTV. I'm Aditya Kaul. Mauritius and India have had ties for very long, and now the people-to-people contact and the trade ties and the economic development between the two countries are being taken forward. Recently, we had the Mauritius Prime Minister, Mr. Navin Ramgoolam, visiting not just Delhi but also Varanasi and going before Lord Ram in Ayodhya. How successful was that visit, and how do India and Mauritius go forward from here? Joining us is the Minister for Economic Planning and Financial Services from Mauritius, Dr. Jyoti Jeetun. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us here on NDTV. Namaskar. I want to begin by asking you about this particular visit, a historic visit that happened and began from Varanasi, and then from the Kashi Vishwanath you moved to Ayodhya. How significant was this particular visit, and how do you see this, laying the foundation of these ties to a renewed level?
Aditya, pleasure to be with you this morning. I must say that, our very special relationship with India is based on a bedrock of our ancestry. As you might be aware, some 70% of our population originally come from, parts of India, different parts of India. So the visit to, the trip to Varanasi, the state visit that started there, for our Prime Minister and his delegation, epitomized that, It was the welcome from the people and the government of Varanasi was absolutely, terrific and way beyond overwhelm all of us. And Varanasi, so not only just the people, the government, but also the place in itself. The Ganga Aarti that we did on the cruise was, and all of us experienced that, we had goosebumps and we felt that very, very deep power of Ganga and the Aarti on that evening. And then, yes, next morning we went to Kashi Vishwanath and then from there to Ayodhya. And all of that, so that ancestry based on cultural values, shared language, shared history, all of that was epitomized in these 2 days, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji coming there and his delegation, and our Prime Minister being there with his delegation.
Minister, I have to ask you this. I heard your speech inside the Parliament, and you gave a very beautiful presentation of your country, of how the economic development needs to be there, the change in perception, but you also quoted the Bhagavad Gita. You took inspiration from the Bhagavad Gita. You said that you will fight the evil, you will fight the nepotism into a new Mauritius. How do you take inspiration from the Bhagavad Gita? What does that tell you about the road ahead, about the prosperity that you can bring your people?
Thank you so much for asking that question. As you know myself, so I think there was a very strong calling for change in Mauritius, and this new government was elected on the program of bringing change from nepotism and a lot of ills that the country was suffering from. And I think Bhagavad Gita, for me at least, gives me this very strong pillar of looking at, the ultimate aim, which is what is it that is our mission. And, like Lord Krishna says to Arjun, don't be sidetracked by this is family, etc. Be focused on the mission. And that is what really keeps me going every day, is that we have a mission. It's going to be a difficult one, but we will remain focused and, get adharma out of this country.
Right. So let's focus on your domain areas also now, and that is trade, that is economic development. But I want to first focus on the trade currencies that are being used. There's been a decision that has been made that, local currencies would be used for the trade between these countries and not the US dollar. And this statement also comes at a time when there is this global rush towards tariffs and, there is economic, not a collapse, but a new international order being set. So how do you see the focus on the currencies, local currencies between India and Mauritius? Are there any agreements being formalized? And do you think this will again give a push to a renewed kind of business ties between both these countries?
So an MOU has been signed between the Bank of Mauritius and the Reserve Bank of India in March of this year for local currency settlement. You see, India has its own issues, Mauritius has its own issues, and we are highly dependent on trade in US dollars. You know, we're a very small country. We import most of the stuff that we consume, and everything has to be paid in dollars. And that has created a lot of economic issues for our balance of payment in Mauritius. So the idea is to be able to trade and settle in local currencies. So for example, you know, if we can import, I give the example of our first line of import, which is petroleum products. So just imagine for 1 minute that we import that from India, and we don't pay that in dollars, but we pay that in Indian rupees. That's a game changer for Mauritius. And now you put that in the context of what India is facing with, you know, the trade tariffs and all. It's really a win-win, and that's what, you know, the tectonic shift from west to east, from north to south. It's naturally finding positives and opportunities amidst crisis and challenges. And I think this is an amazing opportunity and a positive sign that we need to, you know, the silver lining in the cloud that we need to focus on. And so Mauritius would also put in place a clearing system which can be used for trade with COMESA countries. So it could also go beyond Mauritius in African countries.
And Prime Minister, while speaking in Varanasi, also announced a special economic package for Mauritius. Do you think this is going to help not just for the infrastructure, but new, employment opportunities, healthcare, etc.? How do you see this package that has been announced by New Delhi?
So it's really, we are extremely appreciative and grateful for the economic package, which really lays the foundation for economic partnership that's going to happen between both countries in terms of trade and infrastructure support in goods and services. For example, one of the projects is a renewable energy project of a floating PV panel in Mauritius that is going to be built by an Indian company. So one is we're getting support because we don't have to pay that in US dollars. But India then is exporting its know-how and showcasing its know-how, which can then be exported to further than Mauritius. Right. So I think there's a huge win-win. As we really appreciate the help and support, the collaboration that is happening. But I think it's also an amazing opportunity for India to showcase its expertise and knowledge that it has built in so many sectors today.
You spoke about the expertise and knowledge, and this brings me to the 5,000 citizens of Mauritius who would be trained here in India. And there's also an establishment of a Directorate of Science and Technology that will happen, and Mission Karmyogi. Could you elaborate on that? How would this be? Will it be a time-bound thing, or in a very kind of a step-by-step manner?
So it's already started. Some of that collaboration, like our civil service officers are coming to India for training. So it's a package that is going to happen over time. You see, for too long we've been very West focused. A lot of these things were happening with the West. So I think it's very important that we in Mauritius, we have realized that neighborhood is better. So we're working very much with development partners all over the world, with European countries and the US, and for us it's also to build alliances beyond our traditional partners.
Mm-hmm. And you have yourself traveled extensively here in India, from Delhi to Mumbai to Varanasi, Ayodhya and other places. What kind of economic opportunities do you see otherwise between Delhi and Mauritius? To be extended, there are many companies here who would be interested. And secondly, also on people-to-people contact. Tourism is a huge sector. Do you expect many more Indians to travel to Mauritius?
Amazing. The opportunities are amazing. See, India is a big country, 1.4 billion population, so you have a huge domestic market. We are a small country, 1.2 million only. But in terms of goods and services, just imagine the access we have because we are part of Africa. We are a member of African Union, we are a member of SADC, we are a member of COMESA. So Mauritius gives access to, African market. And so for Indian businesses, this could be a corridor or a bridge to Africa. And obviously we are very keen to have tourism in both ways. You know how many Mauritians are coming to Ayodhya temple today? And I was, my business mind was also working a lot when I was in Varanasi and in Ayodhya, and I could see that in future where this place is going to be in terms of cultural tourism. And I think for Mauritius, but also for, Indians all over the world, you can see that happening in the very near future. So I think the opportunities for cultural tourism and this collaboration between businesses and partners between Mauritius and India, but also with the sight on Africa is going to be huge opportunities in the future.
Minister, if we speak about the foreign policy element, and I know economic policy as well plays a very critical role in this, the resilience of the global south and how things have changed over the last few years. There are a lot of disruptions that are happening. There are global conflicts and economic meltdowns that are happening as well. Do you see a new resilience within the global south? Do you see that India and Mauritius can play a critical role in collaborating when it comes to businesses, when it comes to economic ties, and showing to the world that you don't have to be influenced only by the West. You can have your own pragmatic economic policies that can really lead the way and help common citizens both in India and Mauritius.
100%. We in Mauritius, we have a policy of, we are a very small country, so we are friends with the West, we are friends with China, we are friends with India, and we are friends with Africa, of which we are a member. Although having said all of that, we have historical ties with West, very strong one. We were a French colony, then we were a British colony, but most of our people come from India. So there's probably a very sort of special relationship with India, and which I think now with the economic collaboration going on is going to go from strength to strength.
Last question. There has been kind of a perception over the years about Mauritius being a tax haven. Do you think is this a thing of the past now? Are there some changes that have been brought in economically and when it comes to policies? And how are you trying to fight this menace of black money? It's not just in Mauritius, it's all across the globe in many countries. But when it comes to Mauritius, what kind of steps have been taken?
So first of all, it's important. I acknowledge that there has been this perception. And I also acknowledge that we in Mauritius, we have probably not done a good job of removing that perception, that negative perception. What I can tell you is that we are largely compliant to all 40 FATF recommendations. Right. In fact, I was in New Delhi 2 weeks ago and I met with your FATF director and we discussed about collaboration and how to reinforce that, that working dynamic happening. Second, we are a jurisdiction of substance. So you cannot just do shell companies anymore. You have to have substance. You have to demonstrate substance in Mauritius. So you have to have an office and a certain amount of business to be able to demonstrate residence in Mauritius. I think it's also important to remember that and our this year actually, in March, when Prime Minister Modi came to Mauritius, an MOU was signed between the Financial Crime Commission of Mauritius and the Enforcement Directorate of India, for knowledge sharing, information sharing, and a number of collaboration. So I think the systems and procedures have been put in place. If ever, dodgy things happen all over the world, as you said, even in London it can happen. That's right. What is important is our regulatory and supervisory bodies have all the systems and the oversight to be able to catch them. And that, I think, is being very, very strongly reinforced in Mauritius.
Well, Minister Jeetun, it's been a great conversation with you, but I have to ask you, are these just few visits that are happening, or there would be more India visits and India focus from your side?
I would love to come to India again, Aditya. As I said to you, I love India. Always a pleasure to be back in India.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Minister,
Thank you.
for joining us. Namaskar.
Thank you.